There's a pattern in history that has destroyed every financial system. It starts with a secret, a system born in the shadows, growing far beyond the reach of any government. You think the dollar in your wallet is the most powerful currency in the world? You think the Federal Reserve controls it? You're wrong. There's another dollar. Invisible, untaxed, uncontrolled, and it's more powerful than the one in your pocket. It is the blood of global trade, the engine of speculation, and the ultimate source of volatility that shakes entire nations. This phantom currency dictates the price of oil, the cost of borrowing for governments, and the fate of the entire developing world. It is called the shadow dollar. It's a currency that operates entirely outside the United States financial plumbing. It is the ultimate offshore bank account. And for the last 60 years, it has been quietly ruling the global economy. Here's what should terrify you. Every time this system expands too far, it inevitably collapses. And every time it collapses, it drags the world with it. 3 nations ignore the same warning signs. The fourth, the entire global financial order, won't survive them. We are watching the shadow dollar system approach its point of no return. And this time, it's happening again. To understand the crisis, we must first define the concept. The central idea we are about to explore is the Eurodollar system. Despite the name, a Eurodollar has nothing to do with the euro. It is simply any US dollar deposited in a bank located outside the jurisdiction of the United States. They are dollar-denominated deposits, loans, and bonds held by non-US institutions. Why does this matter? Because these dollars are not subject to U.S. banking regulation like reserve requirements. A U.S. bank must keep a percentage of its deposits parked at the Fed. An offshore bank can lend out virtually every dollar it receives. This allows them to create vast amounts of credit and leverage a system of dollar-denominated promises that dwarfs the actual supply of physical dollars controlled by the Fed. This system was born from Cold War paranoia. In the 1950s, the Soviet Union had amassed a large amount of U.S. dollars, but feared the U.S. would seize them if they were held in New York banks. So they began depositing these dollars in London and Paris. The U.S. government inadvertently created its own offshore rival. The Eurodollar system exploded from there, fueled by the petrodollar agreement. Today, this shadow market is estimated to be over $80 trillion in size, a world of debt floating free. The shadow dollar is the true debt spiral. It is the global financial pattern. And in the past, it has always led to the same result: a catastrophic, sudden financial crunch. Let's see how it played out and where we are in the sequence. The early 1960s was the era of American financial dominance. But the world was already looking for a way around it. The Eurodollar market gave them the perfect weapon: speed and freedom. In London, banks discovered they could borrow and lend dollars with incredible efficiency, offering better rates than New York. The U.S. government, crippled by outdated banking laws like Regulation Q, inadvertently pushed major American banks themselves to establish branches in London to tap into this untaxed high-yield market. They were chasing their own dollars offshore. The crucial error was leverage. These offshore dollars were the foundation for lending that rapidly outpaced the underlying assets. It was a pyramid of promises. Every time a loan was made, a new dollar was functionally created in the system. But none of these dollars were backed by U.S. reserves or liquidity. The system became dangerously fragile. Any sudden shift in U.S. interest rates would create a dramatic dollar shortage abroad. These early jolts, though small, were a clear warning of the system's inherent instability. Massive credit creation followed by sudden, violent contraction. The entire system rested on the belief that a central bank would always step in to plug the leak. Jump forward 30 years to Southeast Asia. The Asian tigers, Thailand, Indonesia, South Korea were the industrial powerhouses of the 1990s. To fund this growth, they needed capital. The Eurodollar system was ready to supply it. Banks in the West eagerly handed out massive loans denominated in U.S. dollars. the Asian governments and corporations felt safe, believing their local currency pegs to the dollar would protect them. This was the expansion stage. The error was the mismatch, borrowing in a foreign hard currency, the shadow dollar, to fund domestic projects that generated local revenue. In 1997, the pressure became too great. When Thailand's central bank could no longer defend the local peg, the value of the Thai baht plummeted. Overnight, the cost of servicing their dollar debts skyrocketed. Panic set in. Everyone rushed to sell their local currency and acquire US dollars to pay their offshore debts. This mass selling caused a vicious cycle of currency collapse across the continent. Factories went silent in Seoul, and banks became instantly insolvent. It was a dollar shortage driven by a fear that the entire 80 trillion shadow dollar system would freeze. The only thing that stopped the total meltdown was a massive last-minute intervention by the IMF and a series of Fed currency swap lines. They were saved. But the underlying risk was not solved, only deferred, and they all made the same mistake. The same one we're making right now. Every crisis within the shadow dollar system follows the same 5 stages. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. This is the universal law of offshore finance. Every empire follows the same stages, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. This is the universal law of offshore finance. Stage 1. Expansion and overconfidence. Power feels permanent. Banks, unchecked by reserve requirements, begin leveraging their dollar deposits exponentially. The world believes the US dollar is the only game in town, and lending feels risk-free. Stage 2. Financial overreach, invisible leverage. Borrowing accelerates, and spending explodes globally. The total amount of dollar-denominated debt, the shadow dollar, vastly exceeds the physical supply of dollars controlled by the Fed. This is debt creation in the dark. Stage 3. Currency debasement and the funding crunch. The Federal Reserve, making only on U.S. domestic concerns, tightens monetary policy, typically by raising interest rates. Suddenly, acquiring the US dollar becomes expensive. Promises pile up as the cost of borrowing soars. Stage 4. Collateral failure. Assets, real estate, stocks, bonds purchased with the cheap Eurodollars now plunge in value. Borrowers must liquidate or sell off their good assets, often at fire sale prices, to obtain the scarce dollar needed to pay back the offshore loan. Trust collapses. Stage 5. Sudden collapse and intervention. The market freezes. No one trusts anyone else's balance sheet. Banks refuse to lend to each other. The system breaks at once, requiring the Fed to step in with trillions of dollars in swap lines to restore liquidity. The Asian crisis was a Stage 5 event. The global financial crisis was a Stage 5 event. And right now, we've already completed 4 of them. This is the mirror moment. This is how history repeats itself. Today, the shadow dollar system is more leveraged and complex than ever before. We no longer just have Eurodollars, we have the rise of crypto-denominated stablecoins and trillions in global debt held by hedge funds and shadow banking entities. This is the latest iteration of the invisible, untaxed dollar. Let's apply the pattern. Stage 1 and 2. Check, expansion, and overreach. Since 2008, global dollar debt outside the U.S. has ballooned, exceeding $80 trillion. This explosion was fueled by near-zero interest rates. We, just like the 1990s Asian tigers, overextended ourselves, not militarily like Spain with 750 bases worldwide, but financially. Stage 1, check. Stage 2, check. Stage 3, check. The funding crunch. The Fed has aggressively hiked rates from near zero to over $5 per cent dollar. The cost for a Turkish, Brazilian, or Korean company to service its dollar debt has multiplied, putting immense pressure on their national currencies. The dollar has become incredibly scarce and expensive abroad. Stage 4 check. Collateral failure. The symptoms are everywhere. Look at the banking crisis of 2023, Silicon Valley Bank. And others failed because rising interest rates destroyed the value of their long-term bond holdings, a classic collateral. Failure. Look at the emerging market debt crisis, where countries are now forced to sell off assets and reserves to chase the dollar. The tension is building. The central problem remains: the global economy needs dollars. But the shadow dollar system is freezing up, leaving the world on the brink of a massive, synchronized dollar shortage. We are staring directly into the abyss of Stage 5. The only difference this time is the sheer scale. The shadow dollar debt is so massive that the required intervention will be orders of magnitude larger than 1997. The point of no return is here. What happens next if the pattern holds? If the shadow dollar system begins its final collapse, central banks around the world will be powerless. Global markets will experience a flash freeze. Trade finance, the very lifeblood of global commerce, will stop. It won't be a recession. It will be a systemic financial implosion. The Federal Reserve will be forced to choose between two catastrophic options. One, allow the world collapse, triggering a depression that makes the 1930s look tame. Or to rescue the world again, flooding the market with trillions of newly printed dollars via swap lines and unprecedented emergency measures. History suggests they will choose the second option. The system will be saved, but the consequences for the American people will be dire. The ultimate price of saving the shadow dollar is the complete and final debasement of the domestic dollar. Uncontrolled inflation, loss of faith in the currency, and social decay will be the result. This is the chilling summary line we must remember. When empires fall, it's never slow. It's sudden, brutal, final. Maybe this time we'll change. Maybe we'll find a way to manage the offshore dollar, but history says otherwise. The dollar in your wallet is a symbol of power. But it is only the tip of the iceberg. The real power, the ultimate vulnerability, lies in the system of promises built in the dark, the shadow dollar. Understanding the shadow dollar is not about panic. It's about preparation. It's about recognizing the invisible forces shaping our future and moving toward a world where financial power is no longer concentrated and unchecked. If you want to decode the invisible systems shaping our economy, press like and subscribe to Economy Rewind. We'll see you in the next Rewind.